There's a lot of apocalyptic talk at the moment about the UK going to the dogs and being on its last legs. I'm not going to talk about that in this video, but I would like to talk about a film that's equally as damning about the state of the nation. It's called Oh Lucky Man. It came out in 1973, and whether you lean to the left, the right, or the centre, its critique of the professional, managerial, and political classes is in some ways shockingly relevant.
Harry Wilson, Tax Office.
Great pleasure to meet you, Chief Inspector.
Any little business problems you run up against, let me know.
Some of the comments I'm going to make were in a piece I wrote for the Spectator recently. Yes, I am a proper journalist. And as I point out in the article, the parallels with today are striking. In the early 70s, when the Conservative Edward Heath was Prime Minister, the frustrations with authority figures largely came from people on the left, such as the director of Oh Lucky Man, Lindsay Anderson. But look at the kinds of issues it deals with. The incompetence and sometimes malevolence of the people who run our institutions. Seemingly benign police officers who turn out to be corrupt.
Our word against yours.
So, on your way, chummy. Unless you want booking for manslaughter.
And, most memorably, time servers in local government who treat young women as their playthings. We didn't have the phrase grooming gangs in those days, but when you watch it now, that's what springs to mind.
Chocolate sandwich! Chocolate sandwich! Chocolate sandwich! Chocolate sandwich!
Lindsay Anderson was basically a posh bloke who directed plays for the Royal Court Theatre in London, known for its left-wing radicalism. At this point in his career, he was best known for a film called If, which you could say was a howl of rage against the British public school system. A misnomer in this case because we're talking about private boarding schools. If stars Malcolm McDowell as the rebellious student Mick Travis, who in the final scenes gets to mow down all sorts of respectable conservatives with a machine gun. Shire Tories, we call them in Britain. It's a kind of wish fulfillment fantasy for angry young men who sometimes feel a bit murderous. The follow-up, Oh Lucky Man, is loosely, very loosely, based on McDowell's own experiences as a travelling salesman in the north of England for a coffee company. He's working in a factory. The existing salesman disappears off the radar in extremely shady circumstances, and he's given the job of taking over the guy's patch with the promise of lots of commission if he really puts his heart into it.
Who's my man? Can you sniff him?
That's your man.
I'm giving you the Northeast. It's a big challenge. Do you think you're up to it?
I know I am, sir.
The film then is picaresque, meaning it's the episodic tale of a rough and ready character. And in the course of nearly 3 hours, Mick Travis, the same name as the student in If, runs into evil capitalist tycoons, sadistic army types.
There'll be 3p for the biscuit. Would the young man like a cup of tea?
Later.
And a crazed surgeon conducting experiments on clinical volunteers straight out of H.G. Wells' The Island of Dr. Moreau.
How much are they paying you?
Search for Oh Lucky Man on YouTube and the phrase Oh Lucky Man chocolate sandwich appears. I'm not going to post the scene in full, as I'd almost certainly be banned for doing so. But essentially, this is what happens. At a large, posh hotel, Mick discusses coffee with the disreputable manager, played by Arthur Lowe, the beloved sitcom star of Dad's Army fame.
It's Mayor Johnson, to be precise. I've still got 3 months in office.
In the course of their chat, the manager invites him to a party in one of its function rooms,
Do you like you-know-what?
full of local dignitaries and, how shall I put this, good time girls.
Attenborough. I edit the local rag.
Very pleased to meet you.
And this is Jackie.
Happy to greet you.
Pleasure. Wakedale Echo. Invaluable to a man in your line. Comes out every Thursday. Have you met Maureen? Maureen. Say hello to Mr. Travis. How do you do?
Pleased to meet you, Mr. Travis. Barlow, County Constabulary.
Pleased to meet you.
Superintendent.
At your service. Oh, this is Mavis. Oh, you be nice to Mr. Travis, Mavis, but not too nice.
Happy to greet you.
Great pleasure.
Come here, come here.
The great and the good watch a black and white stag movie, in other words, a pornographic film, on a projector. And then the call goes up.
Chocolate sandwich.
Come on, June. Violet, Eddie, come on, lads. Give me a big hand.
Two white women and a black man take to the stage, lie on a bed. One of the guests starts taking his shirt off, and we in the audience are left to assume there's going to be an orgy. The film presents civic life as a cesspit, basically. Here's what the screenwriter David Sherwin says on the DVD commentary.
Another scene that I couldn't write was the orgy scene. And Lindsay told me that he'd looked through a window and seen the chief of police and the mayor and all their wives watching blue films.
Admittedly, there's no wider context to the story, but it does encapsulate the kind of rotten borough image that a lot of people have of British local government, particularly in the wake of the grooming gangs scandal that has shocked Elon Musk and the wider world. I was introduced to the movie as a teenager, and I think that's the best time to see it, given its view of the moral compromises we sometimes have to make as grown-ups. I still have a great fondness for it, even if it does run out of steam well before the end. And I'm never going to forget Arthur Lowe's other role as an African dictator.
I shall never forget that wonderful spring morning in your room at Balliol. You and Peter drunk on the bookshelves. Karl Marx and Keynes on the floor.
How is Peter?
In detention, alas. I was urged to hang him, but for once I was weak.
The songs by Alan Price, who acts as a Greek chorus, are fantastic in my view, and his comments on the DVD about the politics of the film are what I would call nuanced.
The fact is, I think it's still pertinent. Every point that was made in the film in the early 70s is true today.
Absolutely. And when you look at the film today, nothing has changed.
But one would say that free enterprise produces corruption. But so does communism. But profit is best. Greed is good.
That's right.
And when the film was made in the 1970s, it was the back end of socialism in the United Kingdom. That the government had control over people, especially in the Second World War, identity cards, all the things that they're bringing back now in the next century. We had rationing and government control, and it had existed nearly 30 years after the war had ended. It was still a very controlled society, and it was breaking down because of it. This is pre-Margaret Thatcher and the sort of social revolution from the right-wing side of government in our country. That's what you were picturing, the nervous breakdown of the United Kingdom.
But the thing that really struck me when I watched it recently is the management babble, the absolute BS that people talk. Now, the language of HR these days might be more about social justice, but the pomposity and the cant haven't changed at all. This is what I wrote in the Spectator. By painting adult life, or authority figures at least, as a soulless parade of venal, morally compromised buffoons, the film wears its adolescent mindset on its sleeve. But, given the revelations of recent months and years, who's to say it's wrong? Anyway, thanks for watching this video. If you'd care to like and subscribe, please do.